Welcome to all of you, and it's a privilege to talk today. I'm grateful to Mr. Abhishek for inviting me for this. It's my passion to educate people uh, with respect to many medical topics. So today we're going to discuss about COVID vaccine. And before we know about the need for the vaccine, I will shortly discuss about what vaccination is all about. So I am in Karuna Hospital and my own center, Advanced Diabetes Center. That's where I work. This is my website. So in order to know what a vaccine is, you have to know certain terminologies. And these terms are antigen, antibody, these two terms. So what is an antigen? Any protein which enters the body can act as an antigen. For example, a virus or a bacteria which enters the body, the structure of the virus has lot of proteins on the surface of the virus or bacteria, and that proteins will act as an antigen. This is what is written on top, antigen. And when the protein enters the body produces something to identify that antigen and destroy that antigen. And what the body produces is called an antibody. So just be aware that any protein which enters the body will produce an antibody. And a virus like coronavirus has got multiple proteins, and therefore the body is going to produce multiple antibodies. And of this array of antibodies that the virus will produce, some of them will be what is called neutralizing antibodies. That is, that antibody which will actually help in destroying the virus. Now, this coronavirus is an RNA virus, and it has got a structure of various components which are called nucleotides. And then it is covered with a fat layer. And on top of the fat layer, there are a lot of spikes or thorn like structures which are called spike proteins. And all these components, that is, the spike proteins, the nucleocapsid, the covering of the virus, the RNA itself, all of them can produce antibodies. This is what the virus looks like, a spherical structure, and you can see a coil structure inside. This coil structure is the RNA which is present inside the virus, and on top of it, what you can see here, the purple color, is what is called the lipid bilayer or the fat layer which covers the inner RNA. So there are two things, RNA and DNA. Some viruses are RNA virus and some viruses are DNA virus. And this particular virus, coronavirus, is an RNA virus and it's called SARS-CoV-2 because there was the SARS-CoV-1 epidemic which occurred in 2002 and 2003. India was not very much affected by it, but parts of Europe and the Gulf area and the Korea, Japan, they were affected. So, and that pandemic luckily died down without spreading in the entire world. And now, after so many years, we have this SARS-CoV-2, a similar virus, a virus of the similar group, which has managed to spread in the entire world and is causing a lot of death and destruction. Now, when these are the yellow structures that you can see on top of it is called spike proteins. And when the virus enters through the nose, it attaches to the nose cells, the nasal cells, through these spike proteins. And some of these spike proteins will produce what is called the neutralizing antibody, means the antibody which will neutralize the virus. And why this is important, I would request you to pay attention to the simple, physiological things that we are talking about, because that will help you to grasp exactly what the vaccine is all about. And once the virus enters this human body through the nose cells, it enters the cell and starts multiplying inside the cell. The body produces antibody. The antibody will stick to one of these spike proteins. And when it sticks to the spike proteins, the WBC, the white blood cells, they can identify this virus, and then it runs behind this virus, catches it, and tries to destroy that virus. And this is a video. Here you can see a small black particle, these two black particles. This is a bacteria. This is just a representational video. This bacteria has been attached with an antibody. This bacteria is acting as an antigen, and an antibody has got attached to that bacteria. This is the WBC. Now, as soon as the antibody attaches to the bacteria, this WBC is going to try and chase the bacteria. You can see that WBC actually chasing that bacteria. The same way, when the antigen attaches to the virus, the WBC starts chasing it, and then it kind of eats it up. So it will catch and look at that, look at this virus or bacteria which has got eaten up by the WBC, and then the WBC destroys the virus. This is how the WBC traps the bacteria and virus. So what do we need? That antigen is the virus, and then the body produces an antibody. Then the WBC comes and catches that complex of antigen antibody, and destroys it. Now we want that all the people develop this antibody in their body, so that as soon as a virus enters the body, the antibody will attach to that antigen, and our WBC will destroy the antigen, that is the virus. And that's what is vaccination is all about. So as I said, what happens during a COVID infection? COVID virus enters the cell through the nose cells. Mind you, it enters through the posterior nasal cells and the throat cells. And that is why sneezing actually does not occur in COVID, but they get cough, throat pain and throat discomfort and thick phlegm. Thick cough is what they get. This virus will multiply inside the cell. So in a single virus, thousands upon thousands of virions, the small virus, the baby virus is produced, and then the cell ruptures and all the virus is released, and then they go and infect more cells. Then they enter into the lungs, and then they start multiplying there. Then from the lungs it goes into the body, to the muscles, to the heart, to the pancreas, to the liver, to the kidney, sometimes to the brain also. Now this spread will occur differently in different people. So in most people, it will come only up till the throat, go slightly to the lungs, and then the body will fight in the way that I have described. The body will fight against the virus and then destroy the virus, produce enough antibody and destroy the virus. But if a person is above 40 or 50 years of age, if he or she has got diabetes or hypertension or a heart problem, a liver problem, a kidney problem, cancer, or anything like that, anything which will decrease the immunity of that person, the body is not able to fight the virus effectively, and therefore the virus spreads a lot inside the lungs and causes what is called ARDS, adult respiratory distress syndrome, which is a type of pneumonia, and it can spread to the rest of the parts of the body. It can make the blood thick, and therefore clotting is very common in COVID. And those clots can sometimes form in the brain, and you get paralytic attacks. It forms in the lungs, so you get what is called pulmonary thromboembolism. It can block the heart. You get heart attacks in COVID. So these are the complications we have faced in the last 8-9 months, when we have treated lots and lots of patients of COVID. And that's how the virus enters the body. How does the virus damage the human body? One is that the virus itself enters and destroys the cell. But the second way is that the human being itself, our body itself, produces what is called cytokines, lot of things, lot of chemicals. And that chemicals go on to cause a severe inflammation in the body, swelling in the body. So swelling in the lungs, swelling in the liver, swelling in the muscles, in the pancreas, sometimes in the prostate also, in the brain also. So that is how the damage is done by the virus on one side and by the human body also by the other side. Why does that happen? Because certain portions of the virus induces an altered immunity. The immunity does not behave in a normal manner. It behaves in an abnormal manner, and that also causes damage to the human body. Young children, mind you, they have what is called thymus gland that is situated below our chest bone here, sternum. That thymus gland disappears by the age of 15, but before that, it has the ability to identify any antigen coming in the body and mount a very good immune response. But as age increases, the ability of the body to identify a new enemy. So, coronavirus is a new enemy. So, it's difficult for the virus to identify this new enemy, and that is why the body does not know how to respond to it, and that causes an immune alteration and lot of manifestation of COVID infection. Now, as we discussed, certain portion of the virus spike protein leads to the development of neutralizing antibody. The B cells produces antibody, and there's another T cell which has a memory. After 10 years also, if the virus enters, the T cells will identify that virus, and then it makes the B cell produces the antibody. Then, like I described in the video, some of the WBCs will go and catch the virus and destroy it before the virus causes any significant illness in the body. But mind you, certain portions of the virus causes cytokine storm. The body itself, by an immune reaction, starts damaging our body itself. And those two things are responsible for the manifestation of COVID infection. Now, what are the problems of SARS-CoV-2 vaccine? Now, why am I describing you all these things? One wonders why all these companies never thought of making a vaccine against dengue infection. And that's because dengue, like SARS-CoV, has got a virus which mutates very rapidly. Mutation means the virus undergoes some changes. As the virus goes from one body to another body, the virus also changes because the body also fights against the virus, and then it goes to the next person, which each generation of passing from one person to another, there are some structural alterations in the virus. Now, those structural alterations may weaken the virus, which is probably what has happened in India initially. Now we are seeing some surge again. So in India, probably the virus weakened after it passed from one body to another. But in South Africa, in UK, in Brazil, the virus got certain characteristics which made it stronger to spread more rapidly. So that is called virus mutation. So one is that the SARS-CoV undergoes changes very rapidly. The virus induces what we described an immune reaction, a cytokine storm, which can damage the human body. So now, if you put the whole virus inside the body, whether it is killed also, that body might produce a reaction against the presence of the entire virus and cause some cytokine storm. And that is why we should put only those portions of the virus which will lead to a production of neutralizing antibody. So what was the old technique of making a vaccine like polio vaccine and smallpox vaccine? That is, you take the polio virus, you culture it, and then you kill the virus, and then you make it in a solution, you put some additives, and you inject inside. Now, once that polio virus goes inside in a dead form, so the dead form cannot produce disease, but it can set up an antibody reaction. And that antibody will be enough to protect the body if the actual live virus comes in. But these polio viruses were big viruses, they were not undergoing mutations. Smallpox, therefore, was eradicated. It was one big virus. It did not really undergo too many mutations. But the same thing does not occur with SARS-CoV virus, respiratory virus, dengue virus, etc. And that is why world over, you wonder that Bharat Serum just took the virus, killed the virus, and made the vaccine. So why did not the US, Pfizer and BioNTech and all that, why did not they just take the vaccine, virus and kill it and make it. It was so simple. But the fear was that it will induce a cytokine storm, and the dead virus will also cause some bad effects in the body. And therefore, new methods were tried, and therefore, RNA vaccine, DNA vaccine, and vector based vaccine have been tried for the first time in the world. Apart from this old method which I described, attenuated, मतलब weakened, the virus is made weakened. वायरस को मार मार के कमजोर बना देता है, नहीं तो फिर वायरस को एकदम ही किल कर देता है, एकदम ही मार डालते हैं वायरस को और फिर इंजेक्ट करते हैं. So that was the old method, but now we have vaccine which is RNA based, DNA based, or vector based vaccine. So we have to talk the vaccines which are available with us. So we are going to talk about the vector based vaccine, which is a type of DNA vaccine, which is Covishield vaccine. AstraZeneca, Oxford, and Serum Institute of India, these three collaborated and made this vaccine. Serum Institute, one of the major hub in production. So what they did, they took a chimpanzee adenovirus. Why chimpanzee? Because that virus has never been exposed to the human body. And if this is the virus, they cut the virus. They cut the virus in such a way that the adenovirus cannot multiply inside the human body. So this is one safety issue which I am trying to stress, that the Covishield vaccine has got an adenovirus, but that adenovirus cannot multiply inside the human body because it has been clipped. The virus has been cut in, definite portion. It cannot multiply. Then the gene which makes the spike proteins of SARS-CoV-2, the gene which makes the spike proteins of SARS-CoV-2 has now been put inside this adenovirus. And that adenovirus is put with some additives like histidine, etc. And that is injected in the body. So that adenovirus will go and infect the human cells, and it will take over that cells and produce the SARS-CoV-2 spike proteins. Once it produces the spike proteins, the human body will produce antibodies against the spike protein, and that will be neutralizing antibody. May have led to some confusion in some people, but this is how the Covishield vaccine works. And how does the covaxin vaccine work? The covaxin is the entire SARS-CoV virus which has been killed, totally killed, and then some additives like aluminum hydroxide is added. They tested two types of doses, 3 microgram and 6 micrograms. The 6 microgram was found to produce a very good antibody response, including neutralizing antibody. So the covaxin is putting the entire virus inside your body, actual SARS-CoV-2 virus. But this virus is dead, so it is not going to multiply inside the body. And the entire body of the virus has hundreds of different type of proteins. So the body is going to produce many different type of antibodies against this. But some of those antibodies would be neutralizing antibody, and that will cause prevention from actual infection if at all it were to take place. But as we discussed, there is a danger of some kind of cytokine storm. Has this danger been addressed? We'll see. So the Covishield trial was done in Brazil, UK and USA. In Brazil, it was said 60% effective, UK 90%. So दोनों को मिला के average now they say 70% efficacy in India. And they tested the second dose after 4 weeks. So this was what was done in the trial. What will happen? Side effects, some local pain, redness, some fever for 1 to 3 days, body aches, pain at the site of injection, fatigue, and very rarely some severe reaction to that additives that is added in this vaccine. Very rarely some lymph node enlargement can be seen. Some patients might get some nausea and vomiting, but beyond that, nothing really happens. Fortunately, in the last few days, the data of covaxin has come out, and therefore the problem that I told you, see, theoretical problem that a dead virus will produce a lot of reaction in the body, that thing has been addressed. Luckily, that does not take place. And therefore, it is found to be effective as far as its safety is concerned. So Covaxin is safe. That is definitely sure now. Covaxin is safe. It does not cause any untoward side effects. And an interim analysis report has come out, and that has given an 81% effectiveness to this Covaxin with very little side effect. Initially, they tested 26,000 subjects were injected, and that's how the side effect profile was studied. So they did not get any side effect. Then another group in phase 2 trial, around 380 patients, subjects they took, and of the 380, they divided into two groups. One group got the vaccine, one group did not get the vaccine, but nobody knew who got the vaccine and who did not get the vaccine. And on this, 46 cases of COVID were detected. And of the 46 cases, then they broke out the data and they found out that 37 people who were not given the actual vaccine, they are given just a vial which looks like the vaccine, but there is no vaccine inside. That's called the placebo group. And 37 people in the placebo group got COVID, but in the vaccine group, only 9 got COVID. And of the 9, it was very mild COVID. None of them got severe COVID. And therefore, based on this calculation, this figure of 81% effective has been arrived at. And there was no severe cases and no deaths. That is why Covaxin's safety is definitely now clear. How effective it is, that full data is yet to come. But just recently, a few days ago, this study, which I just mentioned to you, has been published in Lancet, which is a world-renowned medical journal. That means it's been peer-reviewed. That means all the doctors everywhere has viewed that and they have put their comments in it, international, national, everybody. And therefore, the safety response is now clear. Good immunogenic, that is the ability to produce a good antibody, is also very clear. But effectiveness will come to know, more and more with time. What does this vaccine contain? The covaxin has got that inactivated or dead virus with aluminum hydroxide and water. And Covishield has got that vector, which I told you, adenovirus. Then the SARS-CoV virus gene is inside the vector, and it has got certain things like L-histidine, EDT, etc. Why I am telling you all this? Because some people might have allergic reaction to L-histidine and EDTA, etc. And if they are getting allergic reaction to the components which are present, then they cannot be given vaccine. You may not have an allergic reaction to the actual adenovirus, etc. You will have a reaction to these additives like aluminum hydroxide in covaxin or L-histidine, and that becomes a relative contraindication to give the vaccine. Now, who cannot take this vaccine? Who should not take? So, like we discussed, allergy to any of the components, severe immunocompromise, like a very bad terminal case of cancer, should not be given. Pregnant and lactating ladies, right now, no trials have been done. We don't know how it is going to affect the baby, the fetus. That's why that group is excluded from giving the vaccine. Somebody who's got bleeding disorders, in that case, if you give an injection, they will get a big blood clot here. So some cancers with bleeding disorder or some other bleeding disorders, you cannot take the vaccine. Somebody who has taken Covishield should not take Covaxin as the second dose. Somebody who has taken Covaxin as the first dose should not take Covishield as the second dose. That is also very clear. Somebody who's got an active fever going on, an active infection going on in the body, should not take vaccine. Apart from this few contraindication, most people can take the vaccine. If they are on aspirin, they don't need to stop it. If they are on certain other blood thinners like clopidogrel type of medicine, they don't need to stop those medicine. If they are on a big blood thinner drugs, certain drugs like warfarin, etc., then that needs to be stopped for 3 days before you take the vaccine. Now, having discussed this vaccine, Covaxin and Covishield, there are some more which are. Should we stop using mask once we get vaccinated? Definitely not, because number one, we just said that Covishield an average of 70% effective. That means there are 30% chance you can still get COVID infection. Then Covaxin has 81% effectiveness. That means 19% chance you will still get a COVID infection. Then, you can prevent the spread of COVID. So one thing is not clear. Is the virus going to enter my throat? Like I have taken my vaccine, but does the virus can enter the throat and multiply here? It may not cause an illness to me, but does it multiply here? That thing is not yet clear, because if the virus multiplies here, I can spread COVID infection, although I will not get COVID disease. I hope I am clear on this. And that is why I should be wearing a mask, because we are not sure whether even after vaccine the virus can multiply inside the throat. Then later on the WBC and all will destroy the virus, but maybe for a few days I might be spreading the virus. And that is why even as a medico, I have taken both the doses. I have to still use a mask because I don't want the virus to enter my throat and multiply here. And I don't want it to spread to others. That is why I should be wearing a mask and not giving it up. Secondly, should I use sanitizers? Yes, virus may not multiply in my throat, but they can be present in my hand. So if I have gone to the wards and if I have touched here and there and I am not using a glove, then I come out, I am not removing the glove, I am not using a sanitizer, and I touch one of you, I go and shake hand Abhishek Gosalkar, I will gift him COVID infection. Therefore, I should not do that. I should be wearing a gloves. I should be using sanitizers, and that is why, because that will help me prevent the spread of COVID infection. Will the vaccine be yearly? We are not sure about that, but we don't know how long the immunity of this vaccine is going to last, and therefore most of the respiratory viruses, they have to be given once a year. So you know that vaccine, pneumococcal vaccine, pneumovax, and influenza vaccine, we have to take it every year. And maybe, just maybe, this vaccine will also be something which may have to take yearly. But the final data on this is not out. A little bit about diabetes and COVID. I'll go rapidly through this. Diabetics with COVID has a more severe outcome, more complication, more mortality, and therefore anybody who is a diabetic should get more frequently their blood sugar check at home. They should keep a good control of the blood sugar, and they should take certain immunity building diet and multivitamin, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D. That will help in building up the immunity. There are other vaccines in the world, many other vaccines. There is a site which shows about 1,450 vaccines being developed in the world, of which you must have heard the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine. They have already started in Europe and USA. But the disadvantage is that they need a storage of minus 90 degrees Celsius. But fortunately, Covishield and Covaxin, 2 to 8 degrees Celsius is the temperature where it has to be stored. That can be done in our normal fridge itself. Then there is a Moderna vaccine. Then there is a vaccine which is coming by Johnson and Johnson, which is a single shot vaccine. Now these are not available with us right now, so we need not go into the details of this. This is my this thing. This was my slide. This was in short about vaccination. I think I did it in half an hour. I like to take the questions now, if we have a questions here. Is the J&J vaccine going to be available in India? Is a single shot vaccine. Dr. Sunil, the J&J vaccine is a single shot vaccine. It should become available in India because J&J has got a big presence in India, right? Johnson and Johnson is very much there in India. So they are going to, take an approval from the DGCA, and if DGCA approves, then it should be available in India. And there is a space for more vaccines in the market. because we've got a population of 1.4 billion people, and that is why, we've just been vaccinated some 30 lakhs, only about, I don't know the exact figure, but the actual requirement is like a population of maybe 60, 70 crores have to be vaccinated. If you exclude all under 18 people, then, under 18 now they are saying don't vaccinate under 18 people right now. In that case, if you consider everybody above 18 to be vaccinated, maybe 60, 70 crores have to be given. So there is a good room for various different type of vaccines. So J&J will come, it will be a single shot vaccine, and the efficacy and all, if it is good, then people can just take it from the private this. Now why they have not ever allowed all the private people to start giving the vaccine is because all these are emergency approved vaccines, and therefore you cannot just put it over the counter or over the shelf available. So once more data comes in about the safety and the efficacy of these vaccines, then one by one they will be available in the chemist shop itself, and then anybody can go and buy and take to a nearby hospital or nearby clinic, and they can take the vaccine shot. So once the safety becomes more and more clear, then the vaccine will be more easily available. Okay. Why do we need to take two shots for the vaccine? It was found that when we take the first shot, the antibody response is not very adequate. Okay, and that is why after a period of 1 month, when you take the second shot, the antibody response is very robust and very good response, and that is why the safety will last for much, much longer time. Like I said, that one of the vaccine is the adenovirus, which cannot multiply inside the body. That means it works for a few days, and after that it disappears from the body. The vaccine disappears from the body. Same with Covaxin, it is the dead virus which is going inside, and once you have the dead virus inside, the dead virus is not going to remain in the body for a month or 2 months or 3 months, right? It will remain for a few days and then disappear from the body. And in those few days, it will set up an antibody response. And in the first dose, a mild antibody response takes place. And that is why when the second dose is given, you get a very, very good antibody response. That is why the second shot, and that is why there is some controversy. When should you take the second shot? So the consensus now, the trials have been done in a 1 month period, but now they are studying whether we can take it in 6 weeks or 2 months or 3 months. So it makes sense, if we have more data, maybe later on the vaccines will be taken once, first dose now, and maybe the second dose after 2 or 3 months. But as of now, the studies have been done in with a 1 month gap, and that is why we should take it at 1 month. Maybe after 6 months in a webinar, I'll tell you take the first shot now and the second shot after 3 months or something like that. Which vaccine is more effective, Covishield or Covaxin? Now, as I discussed in the lecture, the safety of both is very, very clear. Okay, the safety. Now, the Covishield, again, I had discussed in one of the slides that the Covishield vaccine, the trial was done in two places. One was in the USA and one was in UK and one was in Brazil. And there were some funny differences between the two, between the Brazil and the UK. The UK showed that it is 92% effective, and the Brazil showed that it is only 62% effective. And there was some funny things that had gone on there, and that is why there are it's I'll have to dwell in a lot of details to explain you all that. But because of that, there are certain European countries like Norway and Denmark. See, here I have written Brazil, it is 62% effective, UK it is 90% effective. Because of these some technicalities which they messed it up basically during the trial, that is why certain European countries like Denmark and Norway currently they ban the use of AstraZeneca, and then after some time they open it up. So those kind of things are happening. but UK is propagating the vaccine very much, because it's a UK and a Swiss company. AstraZeneca is a UK and a Swiss company combination, so they are advocating it very much. So certain of these things are happening. So effectiveness, study-wise, Covaxin is claiming 81% effective and Covishield 70% effective. But there is no final word on that. That thing will come, with time. Matlab, when you have given a vaccine so as recently, you have started giving as recently as 2 months, then in 2 months it's too early to for anybody to tell you that this one is better than that one. So the current thing is that whichever vaccine is available wherever, just take it. It is better than not getting vaccinated. It is better to get vaccinated and get some protection. When will nasal vaccines be available? What is the efficacy in clinical trial? So in India, this Bharat Biotech is trying this nasal vaccine. Now, again, the concept is very good because the virus enters through the nose, right? So it's like if you are injecting something in the nose, it should just infect the nose cells and then enter the body. So that's the natural route of the virus entering the body. And therefore, nasal vaccines, if it is well thought of and if it can infect the nose cells and enter the body and set up an antibody response, it is going to be very, very effective. Details, Bharat Biotech, anyway, it took a long time to get data of Covaxin also out. For this lecture, the updated data I got just, 2, 3 days ago. And therefore, we don't have any data on the nasal vaccines, what is the efficacy and when will it come out. But the concept definitely is very good. And if it is a nasal vaccine, it would be very, very easy to administer. You just pass around and, in a company, just go and spray everybody in the nose or stand on the side of the road with a healthcare worker, whoever comes, spread in the nose and everybody gets vaccinated and protected. So that is a wonderful concept and I hope it works and it comes. Is a booster dose necessary? Now we are giving 2 doses. Booster dose, again the data not out because it's a new illness, right? अभी अभी 3 महीने से वैक्सीन है, तो 1 साल या 2 साल या 3 साल के बाद booster dose लगने वाला है कि नहीं, we don't know. But it looks like there are certain indicators that this might be a vaccine which we may have to be taken once a year. And
Yeah.
it may happen that this vaccine will get combined with the respiratory vaccine. मतलब that pneumococcal vaccine के अंदर COVID vaccine डाल के once a year we may have to take. So
Yes,
that
sir.
might